Don in London, hello. March 31st, last day of the month, a bit cloudy here in London, UK. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. My behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. Being in the right place, with the right people, with the right things. All the toys that we were expected to earn in our living and to be happy. But for some reason I became dependent upon drink, people, places and things to feel right and look right and to try live, and then dependency turned into addiction. So it's not an unusual story, and many people face it, deal with it, seem to do it very quickly in their lives from very young, and some of us get a bit long in the tooth, much older, none the wiser, struggling for a long time to deal with drink and trying to get our self-will to work. But unfortunately self-will turned to self-obsession and then self-harm, and not being able to stop doing harm through the actions we had in terms of behaviour and drinking. So these days I like to stay sober one day at a time, and the way that happens is with the help and support of family, community, professionals and a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, a big part of my story about how to stay sober, where's that coming from? Stay sober one day at a time. So Fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is full of unique, authentic people with all that they bring to fellowship, and that's the wisdom of the years of drinking and then not drinking as time goes on. Each person is unique and authentic with their experience, strength and hope, and nobody speaks on their behalf and nobody speaks on behalf of the fellowship. So these videos are my sharing of experience, strength and hope about what is working for me. But to leave out AA and how it helps me and the literature, the program, the meetings, everything would be foolish. It would be a pretense. And it might be me suggesting I know how to fix people, and the answer is I don't know how to fix people, but I do know how to live with a 12-step program which keeps me sober today. And sharing experience, strength and hope is a great part of the story. So this is one voice only, and the most important thing if we have a problem with addiction is to get help from wherever it seems appropriate, within a fellowship or outside a fellowship, because there are many ways to keep sober, and I'm talking about the one which works for me, and that's Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm not a spokesperson, I'm just another person who goes, and I'm glad that is the way it is, because it means I'm just equal to people with one voice. So it's the many voices we need to find the wisdom to live life, and that's it, free to live life again. So AA, I go to meetings. At meetings we have a preamble shared at the beginning which just says what we do and what we don't do. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And if you're new, that's what is said at the beginning of every meeting, and it's so important to me. It's about solving our common problem and helping others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement is for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's it. And being a fellowship, as it is now, there are no barriers to entry, and there's nobody there to tell you what to do. We learn what is good for us, for ourselves, as individuals, and then follow the path which is unique and authentic to us. And it took me a long time to realise that nobody in fellowship was trying to make me do anything or believe in anything. It's simply there to develop the beliefs we have which are good for us, our own personal outlook, around anything. So we all have our affiliations to organisations, institutions and faith-based religions maybe. I haven't got one. Not because I'm rejecting any, it's just that I am where I am today. I live life as I understand it, and my higher power, which is very important to me, is the wisdom of others, love and truth. So truth, love and wisdom work for me as higher power in my life. That's essential because self-will was always about asserting I knew the right path and I would follow it unto death almost, or the gates of hell for sure. So for me, the need for support and challenge always comes in the words of other people, and if a higher power works in my life, it's the wisdom of others, truth and love. The absolute truth, not my opinion or selected parts of truth or my beliefs, is the absolute truth of now, and that's helped me understand that all life is spiritual. It just depends on what sort of quality of life we want and spiritual life we want to get to or be a part of in this world. So if spiritual is reality, which it must be, after all, what else is there right now? Spiritual is connected to the truth, the love and the wisdom around us. When I can't get to meetings, I read all the different books, depending on what I want to do, and I also make videos because it's just part of what I like to do, and it helps me keep perspective in my life. So at the moment I still am utilising Daily Reflections, this book, as Bill sees it, of this book on these videos. And March has been all about the step 3, 12 steps, 12 months, March of step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And the understood bit is a personal understanding, not a fellowship understanding, because the fellowship isn't there to stamp a particular faith on anybody. But God works through people, and that's the wisdom I learn from others and get love from and find the truth of life today. So with that in mind, and just the final one before we go is step 4 in April, which is all about a fearless moral inventory. And I think it might be called a fearless truthful inventory as we start to unearth the truth of who we are. An inventory is just like a self-appraisal that we're often asked to complete in our working environment, depending on the type of employers we've had. So if we have an employer which is bigger than us, which is the universe, it doesn't do any harm to do an appraisal of one's assets and liabilities. So the biggest liability I had was drink, followed by all the behaviour which went with it. And that's next month. But finally, on the last day of March, for March 31st, in Daily Reflections, this is what it says. No one denied me love. On the AA calendar, it was year 2 for this person. A newcomer appeared at one of these groups. He soon proved that his was a desperate case, and that above all he wanted to get well. He said, "Since I am the victim of another addiction even worse stigmatized than alcoholism, you may not want me among you." And that's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 141 to 142. So what worse stigmatized condition could we possibly have? Well, when this was written, probably drugs or something else. But it doesn't matter what it is. The stigma of addiction is the same whether it's alcohol or drugs, I guess, these days. I don't know, because I haven't asked anybody recently, have you got an opinion or a prejudice against people with addictions? And I guess some will have, and that's their outlook. And if they don't like me because I'm in recovery, because I used to have something wrong with me and could do again, or it could go into relapse, then they will judge me, and I cannot stop people judging me. That's just the way life is. I just need not to judge them back, and they'll stay clear as well. Anyway, continuing, it says this: I came to you, a wife, mother, woman who had walked out on her husband, children, family. I was a drunk, a pillhead, a nothing, yet no one denied me love, caring and a sense of belonging. Today, by God's grace and the love of a good sponsor and a home group, I can say that through you in Alcoholics Anonymous, I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother and a woman, sober, free of pills, responsible. Without a higher power I found in the fellowship, my life would be meaningless. I am full of gratitude to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. And when this lady says, without a higher power I found in the fellowship, my life would be meaningless, it's a higher power that she has come to understand for herself. No one else is. And it might be faith-based, it might be this, that or the other, but it doesn't matter. It's a power greater than us, which can give us a bit of truth, love and wisdom. And that comes through people for me, truth, love and wisdom, because I can get it very cockeyed very easily. So I appreciate these daily reflections because they give me an insight into what other people needed to do to understand how to keep sober. So the 12-step program works in mysterious ways from the outside for many people, because we don't know what's going on inside in people. And the usual answer is, well, I'm handing it over to God, which means I'm handing it over from my self-will and my self-obsession to get some perspective in my life, which is to ask in good conscience, and that inner voice which can be to good of good conscience, and then listening for the answers. And the answers often come in unexpected forms. For me, normally from newcomers in AA, from the bus driver, if I were to get on a bus, or a taxi driver, if I was ever to get a taxi these days, too expensive. But talking to a checkout operator, or somebody on the street, or who knows, maybe in a fellowship meeting, where what you see is what you get. Going on to As Bill Sees It, this way, no particular order, but page 33, Foundation for Life. We discover that we receive guidance for our lives to just about the extent that we stop making demands upon God to give it to us on order and on our terms. So that we can have an inner voice inside which says, I want it my way. And the simple answer is, sometimes we may get it our way, but it's better to consult with all those around us. And when we expect the divine power, or the divine leader, or nature and providence to give us a break over and above anybody else, the answer is, I don't know that will happen for me. I cannot see that as a suitable way to make a prayer or a meditation. If we're looking for the common good, so that we are all benefiting in some way through unity, then I think we have a better, and I feel we have a better opportunity. It goes on to say, in praying we ask simply that throughout the day God place in us the best understanding of His will that we can have for that day, and that we be given the grace by which we may carry it out. So prayer and meditation, and asking for guidance. How may I conduct myself today around the people I may see and be a part of what is going on? There is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. So, looking at how am I today, a reflection to the good of what life might offer, and a prayer. Serenity prayer for me works, can do, can't do. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. So I like that, because it's about making the best of what is, and having freedom of choice, given our current life experience and the life situation we're in. What is best? And it's not the answer that comes, which is just my point of view. What is best in the broad picture of what is going on, and what is possible and what's not possible? So if I'm continually looking for help, which is of an intervention of a divine nature, then I'm asking selfishly to be singled out as a special case. And the answer is, in life there are no special cases, and if some people seem to have more than others, then it's down to mankind or what mankind has done, rather than what a divine power might have done. Divine power provided the backdrop, and what we do with the stage, if you like, is collaboration, cooperation, and a greater sense of being a part of something. Providence and nature we have no power over, as has been witnessed by the events in Japan. And man has made it worse by not telling the truth and cutting corners. Was it ever thus? So, there we are, 2 readings for today, and a bit of input from me and how it's working in my life. I'm very lucky to be alive, and you know, a few years back, 8 or 9 years ago, I had no chance. I wasn't sober then, but I got a moment of clarity, and the moment of clarity was, it's not about me fixing me. Indeed, trying to fix anything as a short-term solution often provides a long-term problem. That is, it will break down. It's like the old cars where you would stick a nylon on the fan belt when the fan belt broke. It would just go so far and then it would break down again. If that happened in the middle of nowhere, we were in nowhere. So my human condition is spiritual, is living reality, truth, love and wisdom, my higher power. And the good news is you can have the higher power which works for you, your higher power, an understanding of we're not God, basically, not even in our own backyard. So interdependent we are. And when life is difficult, the serenity prayer, or even when life is going joyfully, the serenity prayer, it's to God or good conscience. As you come to understand, it may work. This meditation in your life, and it is about serenity, and serenity is around acceptance of reality, so we may make the best choices we have. So that, I'll say it now, to God or good conscience, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me is always just for today. From addiction to either substance or behaviour, or recovery from both substance and behaviour addiction. For me, my substance was alcohol. My behaviour, well, addicted to people, places and things. Work, relationships, collecting, materialism. Trying to fix myself so I felt okay and felt happy. And these days I just try to keep sober one day at a time, so I don't need fix anything. Just live life experience as it is, and find a balance in there by understanding what is possible and what is not possible. So just learning one day at a time how to be sober has helped me immensely in living life in balance, emotionally, physically and spiritually. So emotionally, how am I feeling today? Well, a bit wiped out, a bit healing, broken foot, metatarsals displaced in several directions. So that's okay, but it's a gradual process, and any form of walking is quite difficult. So emotionally, how am I feeling? Okay, a bit tired. Physically, dealing with it as it is, and spiritually, maintaining my presence in the present moment of now. My spiritual connection, if you like, is reality as it is, without putting filters in the way. So my biggest filter over the years, alcohol, take the edge off, feel right, get myself fixed, be able to do things which maybe I wouldn't otherwise do because of fear and anxiety. So these days, what helps me keep sober? Friends, family, community and fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA and never can, never will, full of unique, authentic people who can speak for themselves. Excuse me. So, how does sobriety work for me? How does life work? Well, if I share the AA preamble, it sort of gives the game away about what it's like to get sober and how we keep it. and then I'll share one of the readings from the AA Fellowship literature, which is all about letting go and letting good things happen, which is I suppose, has been the topic of March. So first the AA preamble, and then some literature and what's going on. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So for me, a fellowship, unique, authentic people, with a similarity, a desire to stop drinking, and we share experience, strength and hope and how we do that on a daily basis, or we just turn up to meetings, or we use the toolkit of the AA program, the 12 steps, to keep us in a place of balance, just simply in balance for today. And life experience is that sometimes there are extremes and balance goes out the window, but with a toolkit which can recalibrate us or get us back on track soonest rather than later, or with an urge to go backwards into addiction, then life works. Life works sober, and that is the greatest gift that's been given to me in my later life. So how does this happen? Well, this card, which I read from the AA preamble, which I just shared, also has the 12 steps of AA and the 12 traditions of AA as well. And March, I concentrated on, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And the care of God as we understand Him is simply letting go and letting good. So whatever our understanding of a higher power, be it God or good conscience or a connection to the good of living, it works because we get context and stop self-obsessing. I'm just going to self-obsessing. It's very easy to do that because we see the world as how it impacts on us, not necessarily how it impacts on everybody around us and how we fit in. So really, fellowship is about how to be included, how to make good choices, and how to experience fellowship, friendship, love, how to be loved, loved back, and useful in life. Useful in the context of having a happy life, or as happy as it can be based on the experiences we have around us. So we're not in a place of wishfulness or dream worlds, we're in a place of reality and coping with reality, which is one Archbishop said, spiritual is the ability to cope with now. Simply that. So we all learn gradually that spiritual is a one-day or in-the-moment experience, and sometimes spiritual is awful, and sometimes it's absolutely wonderful, and hopefully most of the time it's in the middle, in balance. So I share daily reflections, this book, from the AA program. Again, I don't speak for AA, I share how it helps me on a daily basis with this similarity of sobriety. I can't speak for AA or the unique authentic people in it, so I never do. It says here, March 31st, letting go and letting good things happen. No one denied me love. On the AA calendar, it was year 2. A newcomer appeared at one of these groups. He soon proved that his was a desperate case, and that above all he wanted to get well. He said, "Since I am the victim of another addiction even worse stigmatized than alcoholism, you may not want me among you." Well, of course we would. It's all about recovery. And it goes on to say, "I came to you, a wife, mother, woman who had walked out on her husband, children, family. I was a drunk, a pillhead, a nothing. Yet no one denied me love, caring, a sense of belonging. Today, by the grace of God, or God's grace, and the love of a good sponsor, and a home group, I can say that, through you in Alcoholics Anonymous, I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman. Sober, free of pills, responsible. Without a higher power, I found in the fellowship, my life would be meaningless. I am full of gratitude to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I guess that was written before the other fellowship sort of came into being, because there's a fellowship for everything these days, be it substance or behaviour. And whatever our primary addiction is, for me, I feel the 12 steps are okay. They work because we work at living sober. So whatever our substance is, as I say, mine was alcohol, it could have been drugs, heroin or something similar, same outcome: self-obsession, self-harm, isolation, exclusion, unloved, unable to care for myself. That's where it gets us to. So it doesn't matter what the addiction, substance or behaviour is, it's what we do about it. And I learned I couldn't do it on my own, and that was my breakthrough, if you like. I tried self-will beyond the pale, and it took the kindness and love of others who had gone through that transition from being completely addicted into recovery, one day at a time. The time frame is important. If we try and change everything in one day, we will surely fail. But if we change gradually and with care and love and support, we have an opportunity to keep life sober. What more can one say? Anyway, end of the month. Let go and let good. And as I say at the end of these videos, to the understanding that you come to around a higher power, and for me it's good conscience, a connection with God as I understand it. For me it's God is truth, God is love, God works through people. Very simple, very straightforward. And the serenity prayer, which is for me to use to help me in any moment. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is always just for today. The video is all about recovery, or being in recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance was alcohol, my behaviour, I guess, trying to be whatever you wanted me to be, and that was workaholic, relationshipaholic, gymaholic, healthaholic, you name it, all the isms. So if I wasn't drinking, it was probably coming out in some other way, this addiction behaviour. So where am I today? Well, as you know, I do these videos daily at the moment, and I go to my fellowship, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, never will, never can. It's just a bunch of people who try to keep sober a day at a time, and we share a preamble at the beginning of each fellowship meeting, and there are about 700 fellowship meetings in London of AA, plus all the NA, OA and all the other A's in the vicinity. If you can be addicted to something, there's probably a fellowship around here which people can go to, and it simply is a fellowship. People, ordinary, not superhuman, not bigger or smaller than each other, in the context of keeping well in recovery. And at the beginning of every meeting there's a preamble said, and it goes like this for AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And as I say, that's at the beginning of every meeting. It sort of slows us down into the present moment of now to understand why we meet in the first place, in fellowship, not with hierarchy or anything like that, but just people same level, same size, neither bigger nor smaller, trying to make one day work. And in the traditions, tradition 3 reads, this is March, so it's the third month, third tradition. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. That is the only foot in the door, if you like. And I've been to 2 meetings where people talked about tradition 3, that desire not to drink on a daily basis. That's the only, or rather, it's just a desire not to drink. And I've heard all about how others see and view this, and it's good to hear other people's take on it, their experience, strength and hope of it. And for me it was very simple. I needed a place to go, I guess, to actually find out how to stop drinking, and then have a desire to stop drinking. But when I first went to AA, I had no desire to do anything but die, I suspect. I'd had enough. And now I look back and see that I was caught in the trap of addiction, doing the same thing over and over again, and not able to stop the same result happening, which was oblivion. And I was very depressed, very suicidal. I think that was my ideation, as they say, or rather I feel I just didn't have the heart to wake up. And that's the awfulness of where addiction takes us. We just can't face what's going on around us, and the only way to deal with life is to shut it out, isolate and find oblivion until we die. And you know, that's a few years ago, and the early days were not easy, because at first I had no desire to stop drinking, let alone anything else, and eventually I just gradually worked my way into the program after many false starts. So I wasn't one of those who came along and thought, oh, I've seen the light and I'm on my way, here we go, recovery. It was more like, oh no, recovery means a lot of hard work, and I'm going to have to start my life over again, all over again. And it was only when I realised that starting over meant that I wasn't going to start with a clean slate, because there was a lot of wreckage around me, losses, sadness, unfulfilled ambition, I guess, and also hurting people who loved me and couldn't stop me, as I couldn't stop either. So what saved me? It was AA, I have to say, and I'm very glad it did. And you know, the books or the literature of AA, this one particularly, Daily Reflections, is one I use here because it covers one step of the 12-step program per month. So January was all about powerless over alcohol and life being unmanageable while drinking, and then February all about being restored to sanity. I came to believe that a higher power could restore us to sanity, simply that we could actually have a day to stop doing the same old behaviour and to start some new behaviour. And this month has been all about, came to believe, sorry, say it again, yeah, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And as we understand Him means it's not a common definition as such. It means the God of your understanding and not mine. So we may be polarised in terms of what we understand God to be, or we might be the same. And I like Gandhi's take, and it's not me suggesting it's for you, but it works for me. God is truth, God is love, God works through people, and a higher conscience, if you like, the good conscience that is in all of us, if we are sober and able to see things as they are, and look at the world with openness, honesty, and I suppose openness, honesty, and willing to make each day work. So this book, Daily Reflections, is a touchstone, if you like, on a daily basis, and it's March 31st, so we're heading towards 4th step in April, and I don't play April Fool's jokes with these things, so don't worry. No one denied me love. And on the AA calendar it was year 2. This is another person's story, a lady. A newcomer appeared at one of these groups. Oh no, it's not. He soon proved he was a desperate case, and that above all he wanted to get well. He said, since I am the victim of another addiction even worse, stigmatised in alcoholism, you may not want me among you. And that comes from the 12 steps and 12 traditions. And it comes, and this is the bit, I came to you, a wife, mother, woman who had walked out on her husband, children, family. I was a drunk, a pillhead, and nothing. Yet no one denied me love, caring, a sense of belonging. Today, by God's grace and the love of a good sponsor and a home group, I can say that, through you in Alcoholics Anonymous, I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman, sober, free of pills, responsible. Without a higher power I found in the fellowship, my life would be meaningless. I am full of gratitude to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I guess, you know, with that in the back of my mind, it always says to me, if I can keep sober, keep open, honest and willing, then I can get on with this 12-step program. And as, you know, I understand the God of my understanding, being truth, love, and working through people, it's to the higher conscience or good conscience, or just generally good conscience, which we all know through family, community and society. And if we're careful, we don't go wrong, too wrong anyway, but we all foul up on a daily basis. If we didn't make mistakes, how on earth would we make any progress? So, making progress is learning through mistakes, or things not working and then finding things that can work. And the synopsis of this step, again, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. It's the God of your understanding. Step 3 is like opening a locked door. How shall we let God into our lives? Willingness is the key. Dependence as a means to independence. Dangers of self-sufficiency, turning our will over to a higher power. Misuse of willpower. Sustained and personal exertion necessary to conform to God's will, rather than our own self-will, self-interest and self-absorption. So, for me, what it does is open up the channels through other people to hear the wisdom that is available and to support my experience, strength and hope of each day. And as Bill sees it, as a sort of precursor to step 4, which is where we're going. On page 64, Search for Motives, this book, as Bill sees it. I might just have time to say it. Some of us clung to the claim that when drinking we never hurt anybody but ourselves. Our families didn't suffer because we always paid the bills and seldom drank at home. Our business associates didn't suffer because we were usually on the job. Our reputations didn't suffer because we were certain few knew of our drinking. Those who did would sometimes assure us that, after all, the lively bender was only a good man's fault. What real harm, therefore, had we done? No more surely than we could easily mend with a few casual apologies. This attitude, of course, is the end result of purposeful forgetting. It is an attitude which can be changed only by deep and honest search of our motives and actions. And on a daily basis, with a serenity prayer, I hope I do. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, just for today, with a lot of truth.